welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad you stopped by today because today I'm finally going to be doing something you guys have been requesting for quite a while. I finally got around to it and I am making the cuttlefish from Subnautica. I'm super excited for this. I want to do more creatures from this, so if you guys really like it, let me know in the comments section below. Anyways, let's get started. Okay guys, so we're going to start by doing the sewing for our cuttlefish first. So these are all the different pattern pieces you'll need to make the body. So here in the middle I have the main body piece. It kind of looks like a jelly bean actually. And then over here is the pattern to do our fins. This is actually going to get sewn onto the main body where that little line is on our jelly bean. And then down here at the very bottom we have our belly piece, and then at the very top we have the piece to make our tentacles. So for this piece, I'm using two different types of fabric. So the main fabric we're going to be using is this nice gray fabric. I really like this because it's really plush, but it still has this weird kind of scale pattern on it that's really cool. I'm really not sure where I got this. I think it was at Walmart like years ago and I never used it, and now I get to finally use it. And then for the belly and the under parts of the fins and the tentacles, I'm going to be using this plain white fabric. So I'm going to cut out all my different pieces and I'm going to show you guys how to put them together. Okay, so right here we have both of the pieces for our body that look like jelly beans, and then we have the belly piece in the middle. I haven't finished cutting this piece out yet. And then over here I have the fabric all pinned together to do the fins. Basically, I'm just going to pin them together after I have the pattern drawn out on the white fabric, and then we're just going to follow this line with the sewing machine and then cut it out. It's going to be a lot easier to do it this way. And then we're doing the same thing with all 5 tentacles. After you have the sewing done for the fins and all the tentacles, you're going to flip those right side out and stuff them. Now we're going to sew our fins to the main body piece. So that little line that we had drawn on our jelly bean, we're just going to draw that onto the fabric, we're going to cut that, and then we're going to pin everything together and sew along that. And just make sure that both of your fins are facing the correct way before you start sewing. Now a cuttlefish has this one stripe that goes from the top of its head all the way down the back of its body. So to make it look like it has that stripe, I've got this strip of felt and we're going to use this as the top of the body. Now before we add the belly piece and the top of the body to the sides of the body, we're going to sew these together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this piece of felt along with the belly piece and one of our tentacles, and I'm going to sew these together. Because the cuttlefish has 5 tentacles, one of them is going to be in the very center, and that's why we're doing this. Now we can take the sides of our body and we can sew these to the felt first, and then we're going to sew them to the belly piece. Now before we sew the belly piece to the 2 sides of the body, we need to add the last of our tentacles. So we're going to have 2 tentacles on each side, so we're going to pin those into place and we're going to sew everything together. To make it easier, we're going to do one side first, and then we're going to pin the other side together and sew that as well. Make sure you have your tentacles pinned into place properly. You want the white fabric next to the white fabric and your plush gray fabric next to the gray fabric. Once you have the tentacles in place, you can continue sewing the rest of the belly piece onto the body. Then you just need to flip your body right side out, lightly stuff it, and now we can move on to making the face for our cuttlefish. Now the first thing I'm going to make for our cuttlefish is going to be the eyes. These are really simple. I'm just going to roll out 2 balls of clay and then we're going to bake these for probably about 25 minutes at 275 Fahrenheit. Now normally I don't do this. Normally I make the face first and then I put unbaked eyes into place, but because the cuttlefish's eyes are so round, I don't want to accidentally flatten them, so I figured it'd be easier to bake these ahead of time and then put them onto the clay and shape the rest of the clay around them. And while those are baking, we can start on the face. So I'm just going to take a bunch of clay and I'm going to lay it out on my glass container. Now this is just a glass candle holder that I like to shape my clay on. I just flip it upside down and do it on the bottom. If you don't have anything like this, you can use mason jars, bowls, anything that is oven safe can be used to sculpt your face onto. I'm mainly doing this so I have something to hold on to while I'm working the face. I don't have to stick my fingers in the clay to move it around. So once I have a nice surface to work with, I'm just going to start building up the clay to get the shape of our cuttlefish's face. Now his face is pretty flat, so you won't need a whole lot of clay for this. So it's been a while, our clay eyes are finally out of the oven, they've cooled, we can finally add them to our face. So I'm just going to take them and I'm going to push them into the clay and just make sure that I like the placement of them. Once I'm done with that, I can start taking strips of clay and start building up eyelids at the very bottom and top of the eye. Now the cuttlefish's eyelids are a little wrinkly looking because his eyes are a little bug-eyed, so I'm going to use multiple strips to make each eyelid. And then once you have your eyes done, you can move on to making the mouth for the cuttlefish. Now this reminds me a lot of like a catfish mouth or something like that, so it's a really simple shape. We're just going to take another strip of clay, a little thicker than the eyelids this time. We're going to lay that out into the shape we want, and we're going to blend it in. And then to make the nostrils, all I did was I took 2 little balls of clay, I placed them onto the face where I thought they should be, and I took one of my sharper tools and I poked right through it to make the opening of the nostril. I'll shape these a little bit more with my other tools, but you're pretty much good with the nostrils this way. The last thing that I did was I wanted to add a couple little scales to the face, so I just took a couple more little balls of clay and then I just pushed them into the face where I wanted them to be. Once I was happy with this, I'm going to bake this in the oven at 275 Fahrenheit for probably about 55 minutes. Once your face is out of the oven and is cooled to touch, we can start on the painting. I'm going to start by primering the face with 2 different colors. The bottom of the jaw I'm going to make white so it matches the belly, and then the top of the face is kind of a bluish gray. Once that's dried, I'm going to use a couple different tones of gray to add some highlights and lowlights to the face. And then I'm going to take a lighter gray and we're going to paint that little stripe that we did down the back. We're going to continue it on the face. So I'm just going to paint that onto the forehead. It kind of looks like an arrow. For the inside part of the mouth, I'm using a dark red to make it look like the mouth is slightly open. To start on the painting for the eyes, I'm just going to paint them with a nice black. We're going to let that dry, and while that's drying, I'm going to work on a few more details on the face. Okay, now to finish the eyes, what I did was after the black paint had dried, I took a little scratchy tool and I scratched the shape of the pupil, a nice little circle into the eye. That way I had a rough idea of where each one would be before I started the painting. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a couple different tones of brown and I'm going to go around that circle painting the shape of the eye. Once I like how that looks, I'm going to finish the eyes with a little bit of a white highlight. So I'm just going to add a few dots here and then maybe a big dot at the very back of the eye. This will give it the illusion that they're really shiny. Once my paint is dried, I'm going to paint on a thin layer of resin to protect the paint, so this is going to sit overnight to dry. Once your face is completely dried, we can move on to attaching it to the body. Okay, so the last thing I did was I just stuffed our body lightly and then I just glued the fabric all the way around the head. Okay guys, and that's how I made a cuttlefish from Subnautica. If you guys want to see any other creatures from the game being made, let me know down in the comment section below and I'll do my best to make them. Anyways guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe to all that fun stuff, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!